Welcome back to Serendipity Intended. My name is Tracy Ann, and it is time for the next day in Junk Journal July 2025's challenge, day 29, and that is ribbon. So much journaling has been done, so much creativity has happened, and we are almost at the end. I have had this page picked out from the very beginning, and you'll see why when we get to the page. There it is. So there was this wish tree idea that the author included in the book, and I saw the prompt ribbon and knew I had to use this page for that prompt. So my idea is to kind of create a zoomed in version of this tree. So I wanted to make a sky. That is just a piece of tissue paper that I dabbed into the paint and then used that to blot onto the page. My original intention was to leave the wish tree text on the page clean, and then immediately I put paint on top of it. So, oh well, you just go with the flow, I guess. This page has a lot of individual pieces that each use a different technique. So in addition to sort of stamping on the paint for the background with a crushed piece of tissue, now I'm going to use a piece of brown paper to create the bark. I love using this technique. Now, normally I just crumple the paper, not use water, but this particular sheet was extra thick, and I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to manipulate it and bend it the way I wanted it to with it dry. So I misted on a little bit of water to give me some more flexibility. Then I just sort of squished and turned the pieces until I had something that I thought kind of resembled the texture of a tree branch or bark on a tree. And I did make the ends pointier, or the one end pointier and the other end a little bit wider, how a branch would go. But I wasn't too particularly concerned at this point about the exact shape. It was more just trying to get that texture and have it not look like there was a piece of paper flat, that it was all continuous texture. And then it was time to jump back into the page with the paint now dry and my branches ready, and size them, tear the ends off so that I could fit them onto the page. And this is not an exact science. It's a little bit fiddly. I'm imagining that I'm creating one of the branches on the right side of the tree there, where they kind of fork out one from the other. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. And then have the bottom of the branch disappear into the page to give the illusion that there's more tree that we can't see. We're just sort of zoomed in. Then I found these two pieces of scrapbook paper in a paper pad that I had, and I thought that they would work for leaves. So one is a darker green and very similar in color to the other side, and then the other one is sort of a lighter gray color with the same green in it that I thought would be a nice contrast. I was placing them on as I cut them, or the leaves, just so that I could get a sense of whether or not the idea was going to work. And then once I was satisfied that it was going to be what I wanted, I went ahead and cut more leaves. I also did decide to add another branch at the bottom, just so that I would have a place to put more leaves. I think if I could go back and do this again, I don't know that I would add that final branch that I'm working on now. I think I would have left the space open so that the ribbons that I'm going to add in a bit would have some space to breathe. But hindsight is 2020, and at the time I thought I was making the right decision. Really, I guess in the end it was the right decision, because that's what made sense in the moment. I learned something, reminded myself that leaving a little bit of negative space in a page is always preferable to completely filling the page. So this Fabri-Tac glue I decided to use because the branches still felt a little bit damp, and I thought that it would work better to adhere them to the page than art glitter glue. And so that's what I did. I think too that it is important for us to sort of look at those, they're not mistakes, but those like, I should have done something differently, and reword that, not from I should have done something differently, but oh wow, I learned something from this that I can do differently next time. Oh, and here I'm taking some ink and just going over the texture that I created with the ink, just rubbing it on. And what that does is it creates, or it makes that texture even more visible, because it darkens the raised up parts and allows the not raised parts to be lighter. And then I went back over it with more of a walnut color to add just a little bit more texture and depth with the additional color. I was pretty happy with how that turned out. And then it was time to add all of the leaves that I had cut. And for this I did use the art glitter glue because the branches were pretty much dry, and I felt like I could go a little bit quicker with the art glitter glue. Now I did glue some directly to the page, and I'm just kind of placing the first couple to get myself started, and then I got a little bit more glue as I go, as I sort of went along. So I did glue some to the page, and then I glued others on top of the branches to try and create, again, a little bit more of a three-dimensional effect. As you can see there, I started gluing. You can also see that I'm going between the darker green and the lighter green leaves to try and add some depth and dimension. Both of these papers are not a solid color, they're fairly mottled, so when I cut them out, I ended up with different shades just because of the paper itself. But mixing the two together, I thought, added some additional depth and gave the illusion of maybe sunlight peeking through and hitting some of the branches or some of the leaves, and making them just a little bit lighter. I had these from a Daphne's Diary magazine, and they're originally intended to be folded into origami birds, and I'd been saving them to use them for that, but I really liked the pattern of the three strips, and I thought they would look absolutely beautiful with this page as my ribbons. So I went ahead and trimmed off an end to create the three ribbons, and I'll save the other pieces for some other project. And then I grabbed a few eyelets so that I could punch holes in them. and then put the eyelets inside so that I could then hang them, the paper ribbons, from an actual ribbon and tie them onto my branches. So I used my crocodile to put the holes in, and then also to help me put the brads in. And I don't do this often enough to be super good at it. So I confess I did the first one off camera just to make sure that I knew what I was doing. And then I did the second and third one on camera. Now, the wish tree that was in the original book, the idea was that you could write a wish on a ribbon or a piece of paper and then hang it on the wish tree. And so I wrote 3 wishes that I have, not only for myself, but for the world. And that is what I put on to my 3 wish ribbons for my wish tree. So joy and peace and love. I did use some real ribbon on my page for ribbon, and you'll notice this is pretty long, these pieces that I'm cutting, and that's because I'm really not sure where I'm going to put them or how much I'm going to need. I have a ton of this ribbon and it's not super expensive, so I decided it would be better to have perhaps a little more than I needed, and that way have the flexibility to adjust them. And so then back to the page, and just sort of deciding about where I'd like to put them. It was hard to figure out how to get them to appear to be attached to the branch. That was another thing. In retrospect, I probably should have glued the ribbons down as I was gluing the branches down, so that I could have put the ribbons truly around the branches, and then added the leaves in around the ribbon, which probably also would have helped me decide a little bit better about space. But again, hindsight is 20/20, and I'm still pretty happy with how things turned out. I think you get the idea of a wish tree, and I think it looks realistic enough that you can tell what I was trying to do. So on this one, I was trying to figure out if there was a way that I could get this one underneath of the branch, and I did manage to use, I think it was a compass, to create a little channel to push the ribbon through. So I was able to get one of the ribbons around the branch, and then it turned out that you actually couldn't see that it was around the branch anyway, so after all of that effort, it ended up not really mattering. But again, that's okay. I'm amused and entertained by the fact that I got one of them there. Now, I did decide to use art glitter glue here because I wanted to force that ribbon to sit in a particular place, and not the art glitter glue, the fabric tack, sorry. And I find that works better on ribbon than the art glue. So then all that I needed was my label for ribbons, and I was done. Even though it isn't perfect, I'm still really pleased with the experimentation that I did and the way it turned out. And that is it. I hope that you make a great day.